Way around wants to come sit and choir practice. So yeah, well, extra fun. There's always a idea of what they.
Good morning. Welcome to worship at Countryside Church. My name is Dan Yokas, and my pronouns are he and him, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to this house of worship and kinship. Wherever you are from, whatever your religious tradition, or if you live by love and ethics, you are welcome here. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation. We affirm the individual journey. We covenant on our shared journey. We honor differences, and we celebrate diversity. All are welcome. Please read the blue insert in your order of worship and the weekly email updates for news of all activities and events. We share some brief announcements as an outward symbol that our work is worship in action. Today, from 11:30 to 1:30, we're holding the first of a two-session Path to Belongings class. If you are a newcomer and interested in participating in this class, you are welcome to join us, even if you did not register for that class. To participate, meet with Tom McTavish in room 1 at 11:30.
And free lunch.
Oh, free lunch, there you go. Once again, Countryside Church is participating in a holiday gift program for Palatine families in need. This program makes a huge difference to those families during the holidays. We have a wish list for 17 children and 11 adults. To be consistent with our gift giving, we suggest that the gift should range between $60 to $75. The adults will receive gift cards to the store of their choice. If you would like to participate in this great program, please contact Judy Ball. Judy. Or you'll find some information in your blue insert as well. You'll see Judy's email address. And I believe today, after services, there'll be a table in Atherton Hall with more information and ways where you can participate in this worthwhile program. Thank you for your support. Our monthly theme for November is change. Please help us change lives by donating your pocket change to guests at your table. There are boxes in the table in the narthex ready to receive your spare change each week during the month of November. And finally, children youth choirs will meet today. That concludes our extra announcements. Newcomers and visitors and friends, members are welcome to all events. Newcomers, please stop by at our greeters at the kinship table just inside Atherton Hall, across from the sanctuary. After this morning's service during fellowship, we would love to get to know you better and answer any questions that you might have. We hope that this morning you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation, in our local community, and in our wider world. Again, welcome. Just also a reminder, some of you noticed on the door that the COVID level has increased from low to medium, which means that masks are optional. Although if you're not masked, we ask you to listen to our music. You may lip sync. Even before COVID, Allison always encouraged me to lip sync. I wonder why that was. Anyway, we have one further announcement. Christine Oregon would like to share some information about last night's event.
Morning. My name is Christine Organ. I am chair of the Outreach Steering Committee, and last night was our Music with a Mission event. We were happy to be back in person for the first time since early 2020. So that was exciting. I also get the good fortune of being able to say that while we're still doing the final tabulations, it looks like this could be our most successful fundraiser yet, Music with a Mission. So yes. And it is not too late to donate and help us definitely be the most successful. Just write MWAM in the memo line of a check, or if you do the online donation, just do the MWAM or write Music with a Mission. I do have a few thank yous. I want to thank all of the performers. There are so many names to say, but I just wanted to thank anyone who helped with decorations, media, snacks, ticket sales, the bartenders, sound setup, cleanup. Really special thank you to Judy Ball and John Evans, who led the bartending. They were the bar organizers and captains. Great job. Yes. Mari Van Meter and Nancy Dempsey, who were the brains behind the coordination and organization of it all. Thank you to them. And thank you to Jeff Phillips, who just thank you all so much. Again, it's not too late to donate. Thanks.
Got some of our kids helping me today. I always think children can teach us the way. And they're bringing in a sleigh filled with knowledge and a sleigh filled with extra books, including one I'll be introducing to you today called Widening the Covenant, right? Widening the Circle. And I wrote about it in the newsletter this month, so check your email if you can't find it. Bring that up there so they can see this. Can you hold up that book for me? That blue one right here, yeah, hold that up nice and high. I told you ways to read this for free or listen to it for free. If you want it in a bound copy like this, it's $15 with the UUA bookstore. All right, so that represents our ongoing learning and how we're always adding learning to our covenants. Thanks, kids. You can put that there. I'll call you back later to help me get it out of here, all right? So thank you very much. I'm glad they have masks on today. So we're always adding things to our covenants, you know, and it's really important. Hi, Reverend Scott.
This morning.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, for those of you who may know me, I'm Scott Giles. I am the affiliated community minister to this congregation. My pronouns are he, his. I am dressed entirely in black. I wear glasses, and I am as bald as a newborn baby's behind. Today, Reverend Denise is leading us in an exploration of the idea of covenant, which has always been the glue that has held Unitarians, Universalists, and since merger in 1961, Unitarian Universalists together in community. Now, many religious communities use a covenant to define who does not belong. We use our covenants to define who we want to be included. We seek to widen our communities, not to make them more restrictive. And we change our covenants as society and needs change. And I'm here to share some ideas with our interim minister. So I want you to consider this covenant. Our faith is in the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus, salvation by character, the progress of mankind, onward and upward forever. Oh, and by the way, when you say that, you're supposed to take your index finger and point it at the ceiling.
Is it like dance fever?
Go, come on, get it up there. Give the church the finger. Here, onward and upward forever. Come on. How's that?
I see a few issues with that one, Reverend Scott. Do you want to try again?
Oh, sure. I'm a minister. We never shut up. Maybe this one's an improvement. We believe in the Holy Ghost, whose office it is to make known to sinners the truth of their salvation through the medium of the Holy Scriptures, to reconcile the hearts of the children of men to God, thereby dispose them to genuine holiness. Maybe we want to add the perfections and the will of God and the rule of faith and practice.
You almost did bang on
Nice.
the rule and practice.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I like hitting things. I'm a martial artist after all. Now, she looks a little doubtful, doesn't she? Well, so maybe we want to affirm our belief in the Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior, the Son of God, and his specially appointed messenger and representative to our race. Heck, while I'm at it, why don't we add to implement the vision of one world, striving for a world community founded on the ideas of brotherhood. Because, of course, testicles are important. Now, maybe some addition to our covenant about, the traits normally associated with the feminine and all that. But we've always considered those secondary.
And inferior, right?
Always happy to help out.
Yeah. Inferior, right, Reverend Scott?
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks for these suggestions. Now, of course, you must be kidding, but for my own curiosity, what covenants in religion did you even pull those from?
And obviously, here's where I get serious instead of sarcastic, folks, and obviously Denise and I planned this. These various covenants were each part of the voted on principles and purposes of either Unitarians, Universalists, or Unitarian Universalist congregation, ranging in years from 1790 to 1981.
Again, 1981, some of these.
In fact, that one onward and upward forever, giving the church the finger and all. In New England, where lots of our congregations are, you'll find that inscribed in sanctuaries on the wall of church school rooms and above the doorway. Founded, by the way, written by James Freeman Clark, one of our great Unitarian ministers of the 19th century. We changed these covenants because we believe that covenants and ideas should change.
Wasn't that fun? Yeah. So thanks, Reverend Scott, for helping to welcome folks to our worship today, and with these historic, but not that long ago, all of them, principles and practices. And you'll hear about how the principles and practices are changing. In an interim time, we always look at both history and mission and vision and leadership. So it's a time for us to take a look, and our UUA, all of the constituents have reminded us that it's time in our bylaws to review the covenants and to review the principles and all of the practices. So today's service is about widening the covenant, widening the sources, and that's why we have a pile of books here. We're always learning in Unitarian Universalism, and these statements Reverend Scott shared may seem limiting now or even bananas, But at a time, they represented our best thinking. And as we learn more ways to help one another grow, and for us to be, I always think of Unitarian Universalists and coming to church as the place that we learn and practice and become foot soldiers for other justice issues. Feeding us feeds other justice issues. So as we grow more and learn to do better and help one another, our journey is to keep pulling one another in to practicing the covenant more and widening our Unitarian Universalism. Thanks.
Good morning. Some of you look tired today. Were you out partying last night? All right, we're going to light our chalice today with these words. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Now, if you'll please join me in reciting the words on the screen. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. If you'll please join me in reciting the words of our covenant. We unite to strengthen the bonds of kinship among all persons and to promote dignity and create reverence for life's creating, sustaining, and transforming power through worship, study, and service.
I would like to correct a huge injustice. I have never in my life told someone to lip sync. I promote singing with all you've got, for all kinds of reasons, for commitment. And so as we sing the Fire of Commitment, number 1028 in your teal hymnals, we ask that you sing with a mask, because who wants to be sick for Thanksgiving? So that's the whole big deal of it, but oh my goodness, please sing with your heart and make that commitment. Stand and join us if you are willing and able.
Sets our
Our first reading today is This Ain't No Country Club by Nathan Walker, which is an excerpt from a greater work of his. There's no time to be spinning around ourselves saying, we're so small, we're a minority religion. No, the real problem is when we diminish our institutional self-worth by trying to be a country club religion. Who else here is tired of being internally focused and preoccupied with matters irrelevant? Where's my coffee? And why are those curtains crooked? And can you believe he wore that? Or do you know what she said that she would do, and that he said he would do but didn't do? And where's my Splenda? Preoccupation with idle chatter, kind of self-poisoning. We should excommunicate such petty banter. It's time that we become part of a progressive, visionary path that liberates future generations from the theological labyrinth of despair. It is time that we have the courage to transform this social club into a collective force of justice. Because we ain't no country club. We ain't no intellectual secret society, and we ain't no navel-gazing hum-diddy-dum cult. We are an intentionally diverse community. We are a group of people who seek to lead meaningful lives, to love one another without prejudice, and to build a just and sustainable world. Let's inject this mission into our DNA, and once and for all, get out of the committees and into the streets.
Good morning. I am Mary Sheldon, your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, she, her, and Leilani and Quinn Smith, and Natalie, Julia, and William Unverzacht are here this morning to help me tell the story. Our story today is about covenants and how to make them and how not to. Young people in Sunday morning religious exploration and Sunday night youth group know all about covenants because they make them together each year. Covenants are just an agreement we make about how we want to be together. Our story this morning, written by Louise Marcotte, is the Animals Covenant, and it's something that happened a long time ago, or maybe even just last week. A group of animals decided to meet together to learn more about the interdependent web of life, which each of them was part of. They agreed to gather in the meadow by the side of the mountain lake. What do you think their meeting might be like? There are two stories that people tell of it, and we will tell you both of them today. The animals gathered in the grassy meadow by the shore of the sparkling mountain lake. There was a chipmunk, an owl, a fox, a raccoon, and a grizzly bear. They had to decide how they were going to be together. For before you get started on learning, creating something together, you first have to spend some time deciding how you will be together, how you will treat each other, how you want to be treated, and what parts of yourself you will share. This is how the first story goes. The bear said, "I am the strongest creature among us. I will tell all of you what to do, and you must listen to me. For as we all know, the strongest should be in charge." The owl said, "Who are you, and why should we listen to you? As you all know, I am the wisest of the animals. Don't waste your time listening to that foolishness. If you listen to me, all will be well." The fox said, "You may be very wise, old owl, but I am by far the cleverest animal here. You may be surprised at what happens if you don't listen to me." At this, the raccoon began to snort with laughter. "You guys are too much." The owl told him, his feelings hurt, the bear began to grunt and growl and shuffle about. The owl told him to stop that foolishness, whereupon the chipmunk, who had been very quietly hanging at the very edge of the group, said, "I'm out of here. and took off for parts unknown. The sun shone down on the remaining animals in the meadow, but they did not feel its warmth because each was too busy trying to cast the biggest shadow over the others. Now, not everyone agrees that this is how the story went. I've heard another version of the tale of this gathering, but it went a little differently. The animals gathered in the meadow, they agreed to think for a minute about what they wanted from the meeting. And even more, they thought about the gifts that they could bring to the group. For if they were to learn anything about the interdependent web of life, which each of them was part of, they would have to share those gifts with the others. Bear spoke first. I am Grizzly Bear. I bring to the group my honesty. I will not say things to please you or anyone else. You will know that what I say is what I truly think. Owl then spoke. I bring the group my curiosity. There are so many things that I want to know about, so I will ask each of you many questions, and I will listen to your answers and perhaps even ask more questions after that. Fox then spoke. I am Fox. I bring to the group my persistence. I don't give up easily. I will not let the group forget about something that we decided to do, even if that thing is not easy. I will help our group finish what we start, so that we will learn more about all the parts of the interdependent web, not just the easy parts. Raccoon spoke next. I am Raccoon. I bring the group my sense of humor. I like being part of a group that laughs together and enjoys life together. I think a little laughter can help us learn about serious things, just in a different way. And Chipmunk finally spoke. I am Chipmunk. I bring the group my listening. I don't often say very much, but I always pay attention and listen to what everyone says with great care. I really do want to learn from each of you. By opening my ears and my heart, I will help share your wisdom with the group. And sometimes I will tell you what I am noticing as I listen with great care. The sun shone down on the animals in the grassy meadow, and as they paused for a moment, they were filled with its warmth. They felt excited and ready to begin to learn together, and suddenly they felt more connected to one another and to the interdependent web of life of which they were each a part. That feeling of warmth and connection, that we are part of something larger than ourselves, is part of making a covenant. The covenant is a promise to each other and to that which is ultimate and true and loving, which some people call God, a promise of how we will be together. And now, the young people may follow Natalie to their religious exploration sessions.
Our reading today is A Covenant Invites Relationship. In Unitarian Universalism, a covenant is not a definition of a relationship, it is a framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humbled towards evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights or realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flows of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. A covenant sometimes may arrive at a unison, but is not required. A creed gives authority to the statement or the person or people who have written or endorsed that statement. A covenant gives authority to shared intention. A creed creates an inner circle where not everyone is included. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on treasures of shared truth. The overall trust within the covenant is in the truth, with a capital T. Something that no one person can fully see, yet sometimes which each and every person can come to know in glimpses, in another's stories, in epiphanies. Truth is ever changing in our seeking to understand because of our limited perspectives. We grow into a deeper sense of the meaning of all things when we take our journeys seriously with full heart and mind. The courage within this covenant is in the acceptance and celebration of life, with all its challenges, pain, ironies, and joy. And the sacrifice within this covenant is in the letting go of dogma, of assumptions, of control, and giving over to a greater wisdom which comes to us in bits and pieces. The task of this covenant is to take responsibility for the freedom that we espouse. We know that we are interconnected and that what we do creates ripples of hope, of despair, of affirmation, or negation. What we do with and for another is powerful and beyond our imagining.
We'll build a love where we bind up the broken. We'll build a love where the
I had the kids pick out my stole today, and I realize it matches the book I'm advising you to check out. I was gonna preach with text right from that, and I decided that a lot of you haven't read it yet. So I know you like extra credit and overachieving. So I'm giving it to you ahead of time. It'll come up again, it'll be like a pop quiz. I've read that probably 3 times and I'm still learning from it. So if you don't understand it all, it's not you, we can discuss it. So recently I was walking through an area in my neighborhood where the local urban ecology center has worked to intentionally revive and return the area to natural prairie. The Menominee River was once a liquid highway that was used to ship industrial products, and it erased any natural ways of the land and how the land once cared for itself. And while some would say shipping and industry helped build the power of the Midwest, I could have had Reverend Scott say that, right? In the 18th and 19th centuries, some are now realizing that that wasn't entirely healthy for people or animals, nor Mother Earth. Luis is going to show you a few slides of the area where I walked. Oh, he's already got it up there. So enormous stretches of grassland and waterways. I just love walking along them, and you can see it's still in an industrial area. In the Midwest, we call these prairies. You can switch to the next one. The word Menominee is derived from an Algonquin word, meno, meaning good, min, a term for a grain or a fruit, like wild rice, menomin, that used to flourish in these extensive wetlands and these valleys. And now a park is being developed where there was previously languishing industrial brownfield along the Menominee River. And there is a project aiming to bring the land back to what it was once and clean up the prior industrial sites. And you can see some of the pretty areas. Now we see projects like this happening all over, more since more money has been freed up to do that recently. And ironically, in rehabilitating the land, ecologists had to go and construct little hills and recreate the wetlands that were there 200 years ago. And so the river is coming back to life, and you can go on. Here's some of the hills and the wetlands. And Reverend Matt and my son often go fishing there. And I walk there pretty often, trying to do it more, trying to take better care of myself. And when we walk, I see people of all ages and all genders and cultures and walks of life and identities. Some are biking, some are just hanging out, some are having picnics, some are sitting on the hill just laughing. And then, if you walk far enough, now that's Brewer Stadium, you walk far enough, you get to these parts where they haven't rehabilitated it, and there's concrete lining what used to be the river, and then there's lots of graffiti. While some of it is interesting, the river there smells when you get to the part where it's been lined with concrete, and actually the water there is very deep, and there's no fish in that part of it. And part of what they're doing is they're trying to rebuild the habitat so that the fish can come back. And ironically, this was an area native to the Potawatomi people, and when you walk those hills, you can see the Potawatomi casino from the hills. And so usually we explore the rehabilitated area, which is about 30 acres that they've been working on, and there's plans to continue to remove the concrete so that the river can start to come back and the area can start to rehabilitate. And where you're in the yucky parts, the water just sits still and it smells and it's dank. And it has a totally different energy to it. I find it really creepy. I end up jumping like at every little noise. I just feel unsettled in that part. No one's fishing there or walking or biking or skateboarding or any of that stuff. the area's been so controlled that it benefits no one. So I wonder if at the time that they were lining the river in concrete in the 60s, right around 1965, which it seems I keep preaching about those years, I wonder if many of the constituents that were helping to develop the plans thought this was the best solution for all concerned. I bet they did, right? Just like when those Unitarians and those Universalists wrote those covenants, they thought, this is great, right? This is awesome stuff, all this good men in our race, right? You know, I wonder if they had people showing up to their meetings going, this is a terrible idea, or if they were just like all patting themselves on the back. And now they're working so hard and they're spending millions of dollars to remove what they put in, right? To return it to what it was. And that is a perfect example of how we form our faith. We are constantly encouraged to keep learning. So often, it's very typical for Unitarians and Universalists to read whatever is in the brochure rack out there and go, this is it, this is my place, and then kind of stop learning anything more, not continuing to add to widening the covenant, not continuing to look at ways we could include more people, more ideas that would benefit us, or not making amends for things that were cruel that we might have done. We didn't mean it, right? It wasn't our intention to not do things that were exclusive, or maybe it was, but we know better now, so we can do better. So I had the kids bring in this sled of books to illustrate that we keep making changes. We keep adding to our knowledge. That's why we have lifespan religious education. That's why we're doing like the discussion around the White Lies podcast, and there's going to be a theology one in January, I think, on Spirit of Life. It's going to be adding and looking at your theologies. Now, I want to be clear that there are many faiths that use a concept of covenant, and we respect those faiths, and they base their creeds and covenants on a sacred book, perhaps the Jewish scriptures, like the Tanakh, or the Bible, or the Quran. And I want to be clear that we use covenant differently, just like Reverend Scott said. We use it to add to who feels welcomed in our spaces. Some people write creeds or covenants and say, we believe in this. Thus, if you don't believe in this, you're not one of us. It's a different way. They're not necessarily better or worse than one another. They're just, I'm explaining how we do covenant in Unitarian Universalism. And forming our faith may well be a very different meaning from the way you might have learned covenant in another setting. So we derive meaning from those books and studying so many others while practicing using language and concepts in our meetings and discussion groups and lifespan religious education classes. This is where you practice. This is where you say, I'm just learning about this, but I'm trying it out. I'm not quite good at this part yet, but I'm trying it out. So that then when you go to the school board meeting, so that then when you go to the river cleanup with your urban ecology center, or whatever that might be, you've now got some of the language. You're seeing the depth and the complexity of the situation. So we know that in 1965, when the riverbed I showed you in my neighborhood was lined with concrete, it was a misguided idea to direct flood flows downstream as quickly as possible, which ended up pulling up all kinds of dirt and things that were needed in the ecology, ripping it out. And I bet at the time in 1965, that management style, they thought was gonna be healthier for people. They thought it was gonna be a great way to do it. So should we be mad at them? I guess we could, but instead we could say, they know more now, and they're working hard to make amends, so they can do more now. So covenants embody how we're going to be with each other as we move along the path. And when you read that book I suggest, or you hear in a class about something that maybe we put in the covenant a year ago, 2 years ago, and now we've learned something else, this isn't about shaming anybody. This is about us saying, isn't that amazing? We are further on our path together. We're being brought along together. So I told you last week in the video that I didn't always understand the process of covenanting. I really wanted like a pad of paper checklist, you know, like pre-printed, and we would just as a group like write the name of the team, we would check off the boxes that were like good covenant things, pass it out, okay, we all understand that now. The thing about Unitarian Universalism, and you're gonna see it in the meetings that we're gonna have around the transitions process, around the interim process, is that one of the most important things is that we hear one another. Now, sounds nice, right? But it's really important to hear someone say, the music is the greatest thing, and hear someone say, I want something else in the music too. It's really important to hear that that thing that you loved in the covenant might not be holding and meaning the same thing to someone else. It's about the process. It's also about their experience. Now, the board and I did a startup recently, which is what they do when a new minister comes and sometimes a new DRE. And it's like where we go and look at what we assume and see if we assume the same things. And I can tell you, even in my contract, they had different ideas about things than what I thought the things meant. So it was really good to hear that. That way we know where we're starting from. So it's that process of covenanting that's very helpful. Now, another thing that's hard about being a UU, because I don't want to tell you this is easy, is that we're a pluralistic faith. It's exciting. And the funny thing is that for those of us who have been in another faith prior to Unitarian Universalism, we're often used to learning those few phrases, we memorize a couple things, and then we repeat it over and over and over, right? When we come to this faith, we sometimes try to approach it the same way. That's what I was trying to do with those, you know, I wanted the checkbox covenant, right? Just tell me the thing, someone's already thought of it for me. I don't have to think that way. I don't have to get uncomfortable that way. It doesn't work that way in this faith. My friend and colleague, Reverend Manish Misra Marzetti says, a Unitarian Universalist can thus wind up holding dogmatic cultural expectations despite our intentionally non-creedal, broad-based tradition. The newcomer is often sent a subtle message. We don't mean to do this, but we do it. If you like what we have typically sung, read, talked about, and admired, then you probably belong. Just be sure to learn all of our cultural norms because we're not going to learn yours, even if we all agree on the UU principles and sources. Cultural norms can, in this matter, silently become Unitarian Universalist vetting processes upon which belonging is conditioned. The Unitarian Universalist can thus end up holding a dogmatic cultural expectation despite our intentionally non-creedal, broad-based tradition. The newcomer is sent the message, get on the bus with us, right? Because this is a vetting process that we're putting you through. Did you like it? Okay, good, you can stay. Instead of saying, oh, you do something else, tell me more. Tell me more about where that came from. Tell me more about that. We cannot memorize the highlights of the Humanist Manifesto or the top Buddhist lessons or the best pagan holiday traditions and then be set. Change is our constant. Even our principles, which we love, right? We get all into those. We think that they've been the same all the time. They have changed over and over and over. right? We read you some that had changed. We used to talk all about men and our race. We used to talk lots about Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. We would never do that today, right? It's okay if you still think that, but it's not the only thing anymore, right? We've added to our covenant. So we keep rewriting our covenants, even in meetings, to really embrace more ways of loving, ongoing learning. And it's arduous. Joy, where are you? There you are. Joy was like, are we gonna read this thing every week? Well, we did a really cool thing the next week. I was like, that's a fair question. Are we agreeing to it? What we did the next week is we said, pick something in this covenant, because the one for our White Lies class is quite lengthy. And some people said, I'd never heard of one this lengthy. And me and Mary Sheldon were both like, oh, we see ones like this all the time. Everyone picked something they really liked about it. I learned something about every person there, because they all picked different things and talked about why. It was such a great way to get closer to one another in the congregation. Now, UU educators, Juluca de la Fuente and Cristina Riviera, they're both religious educators in our faith, they write, covenants are often used to protect and respond to white fragility. Often covenants include a phrase like, we assume good intentions. But people of color or disabled or LGBT people may wonder, they tell us, do we always assume that? I don't always assume good intentions, they say. We intend well too often means, if I hurt your feelings, it's okay, because that was not my intention. Instead of, a more powerful way of engaging would be, this work is all about us saying, I will be responsible for my impact and worry later about my intentions. Impact is the place where we're going to focus, not whether we intended to hurt or not. They go on to describe people who live with disabilities asks us often to not use the word brave. Brave, we like to say we're gonna make brave space. I've said that, I've put that in a covenant recently. Brave can be a trigger word, they tell us, since the disabled are often told how brave they are just for living. If your community has shifted its covenanting language from safe spaces to brave spaces, maybe have a discussion about further shifting that to speak of bold spaces. It's more welcoming, it's more open, it includes more people. That's in a book that I'm really enjoying reading right now called Beyond Welcome, Building Communities of Love, and it's by Skinner House, our own publishing division. Unitarian Universalism asks us to keep reading, continue doing meditations and classes, have a pathetic or unpathetic spiritual practice, go to small group ministry opportunities, get involved in Wellspring, do chalice circles. It begs us to keep on learning. Now, a week ago, I showed you a video about our covenant being open. That's not better or worse than other faiths' covenant. It just means that for us UU people, we continue to use new knowledge and new learning to base our truths. We have a little part 2 to that video right now. Hi, I'm Reverend Denise, and this is Reverend Matt, and he's going to help me out today with an explanation about how covenant works. So remember a couple weeks ago we talked to you about covenant not being sealed? Well, here we are with our overflowing box that we can draw from to write our covenants. But a lot of people, and frankly even me, have asked, is there just one perfect covenant? Just give me that one, I'll check the boxes, I'll be set.
Sorry, doesn't quite work like that. Our faith is always being added to as we learn more about anti-racism, decentering whiteness, being more equitable to LGBTQ folks, making our congregations welcoming to people of all incomes and classes, and so much more.
We are always adding to the covenant. A lot of people come to a UU church and think, this is amazing. I'm set. This is what I believe. But the thing they sometimes miss is that with our covenant not being sealed and us being good heretics, we are always adding and learning. Yes. And so we're always working to making ourselves more and more open. We're widening the covenant. We're widening the circle.
All right. Covenant can be a written agreement among individual community members promising to behave in certain ways, and it can mean what we promise to one another.
Yes. So covenant, a number of people have said to me, well, as long as I make that covenant for the meeting or while I'm at church, I'm good, right? I don't have to do that anywhere else. Is that how it works, Reverend Matt? No. It's how we show up in the world. And so studying and acting on different recommendations, including those from our new favorite book, Widening the Circle. Yeah, studying this, making it part of everyone's vocabulary, and of course my favorite, what do you like from this book?
Oh my gosh, it's so thick. I mean, you have to, I like that you need to dig into it and talk to people and work through it with people. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I tried reading this book straight through the first time, and it's too dense. We need to break it down and talk it through and talk about what it means. So we are always adding to our covenant, and this is how we act out our faith and make it wider. So I'm telling you about this book that you could use to learn more about our faith and our history. And in the most recent issue of The Focus, I included links so that you can get it free, so price doesn't need to be an object. You can listen to it. They tried to make it in as many formats as possible. It was a report from the UUA Commission on Institutional Change. And it really talks about how to bring more people in. It addresses lots of issues of racism and ableism and so much more. In that other book that I've been reading, The Building Communities of Love, it says we also need to make room for the emotional work of messing up. And that takes some time. I've noticed that if some people feel really like we have to get through the agenda in a certain amount of time, if there is that emotional messing up, sometimes they just move through it really fast or skip it or talk about people afterwards, right? Instead of saying a good covenant makes room for feelings, which is why, you know, I put the feelings wheels in the sled, right? We still have extra copies if you need them, but we have to make room for feelings and processes and how to engage those. Because the worst thing is if someone tries to hijack a group process, right? The whole process is arrested by one person having difficulty. So we do have to bring them along, and we also have to have covenants that say, we're on a journey together. We want to bring you along on this journey. I have often heard folks link our covenants to contracts. I totally used to think that too. So if you thought that, it's okay, but we're here to learn more. And so in that book, Beyond Welcome, it says good covenants focus on power dynamics, risk-taking and social location, impact over intent. Congregations often leave out making space for the holy. I like to think of the holy as spirituality. It's that magic that can happen when we work together on something. We feel good about that work or that dreaming that we're doing together. We need space for that to happen. Plan it into your agendas. We may hold religious wondering about things. Some of us may hold religious wounding about issues we haven't worked through. You might feel itchy about certain words that I've used or ones that come up in covenants. Well, I don't like that word, right? I used to do a whole series called Words We Love to Hate, right? And we would talk through what those meanings are, because different words have different meanings, not just in the dictionary and the thesaurus, but also with one another, with with ways that it meant different things. We want to distance ourselves from so much language around faith or religion that we miss out on gifts of relationship. That magic comes when we work together, when we help one another learn, when we care about one another, and then we can come back using the covenant from hurt or misunderstanding. That is holy work. That coming back together is the holy, as I am defining it today. Sometimes we hold so many assumptions, or we hold anger, that we forget to give people the opportunity to come back into covenant. Or we never talk to them about the thing that hurt, right? This denies them the opportunity to be close to you. It denies you the relationship. We lie and pretend like we liked someone or all was going well. Sometimes it goes on for months or years. One part of my family of origin does that. They don't even know what the thing was anymore, right? They'll go ages, years and years. They can't remember the thing. They didn't talk about the thing. Now the issue becomes the deception. The deception is much bigger than the years of neglect of the relationship, right? The deception and the neglect of the relationship is much bigger than the original thing, Detachment, distance makes this so much worse. Denying the people the chance to come back into relationship may give you the satisfaction of being right, but right is a lonely place. What if the governments and businesses that line my river with concrete refuse to try to make it right? Is this the same as not working to do better? Don't we all need to do better? I always think I'm just on a lifelong journey of learning how to do better, right? Be better, think more clearly. And part of that is making amends. The caretakers of the river are in a process of recovenanting. Imagine if they just said, well, I'm sorry that we did that. I didn't mean to. I didn't intend to. We didn't intend to hurt. Well, it would be sort of like, well, you might not have intended to, but the river is still lined with concrete and it's still full of toxins and people can't live there and businesses can't thrive there. The hilarious thing to me is that now that they've been rehabilitating the river, there's all these businesses moving into the area, there's big parks, there's people. The area was a dead part of the city, and now it's thriving. They're realizing that they have to change to grow and do better. They're working on the impact, not just the intention. When we're doing soulful and faithful covenantal work, bringing someone back into covenant, that opens our hearts to the holy. It makes our community ready to love more people. I hear that all the time. You want more people to join here, right? This is why we do that. This is a recruitment technique. This is a retention technique. It makes our community ready to call more people in and calling people back to covenant that may have left, right? That's how we get to enjoy vibrant, trusting, and diverse community. Now the sled has a holiday bow on it. The sled belongs to Allison, our music director, and she asked me if I wanted to remove the bow. And I said, no, I think it's a good reminder that the holidays are coming, and working hard on having covenantal conversations, whether it's with your family or your work community or your congregational community, using a deadline of the holidays is a good idea. It's wise. Letting it go and go and go makes it so much worse. That's where the trust erodes. Details are forgotten. People can't speak to what the hurt was. Making amends over distance and time is so much harder. That Metropolitan Milwaukee Sewerage District near where I live is spending millions of dollars removing that concrete. and returning the land to how it once thrived. It's not easy. It's taking them years and fundraising and grant writing and coordination with all different groups. Learning new tools and gaining new perspectives like those in these books or this book, it's probably going to be challenging. I have no doubt there are things in here you won't like. You won't feel good about learning about it, about our history or things that have happened. And yet, we'll keep doing it if we don't learn, right? So you might get uncomfortable, but you know what? You have people here to be uncomfortable along with. You won't be alone in your discomfort, and you can talk each other through it. Help me grow in love on this. Help me grow in love can be your invitation, your ask. Because you know what? Your relationships could become deeper, more profound, could help you embrace wonder, strengthen your spirituality. Covenanting is not easy, but it's worth the effort because it's holy work. And just ask yourself, do you want to be right? Or do you want to be in relationship?
Before we take our offering, I just want to share with you some good news and some bad news. The good news is that this church has all the money it needs to fulfill its mission. The bad news, it's in your pocket. But really, that's not bad news, because giving makes us feel generous and gives us purpose. So now is the time in our service that we set aside some time to share the communal ritual of giving. Our congregation is funded entirely by pledges and stewardship contributions from you, our beloved members and friends. Giving helps us feel more generous, and it allows us to build a beloved community and to serve the wider world. If this is your first time worshiping with us, please let the basket pass you by. Your presence is gift enough.
I invite you to join in the singing of our last hymn. You will find the words either on the screen or in your order of worship, and you will know this tune. Stand if you're willing and able.
In the words of Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, let us covenant with one another to keep the faith with the source of life, knowing that we are not our own. Earth made us. And even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others, cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will. This is the ground of our hope, the reason we can be bold in seeking to fulfill the promise. Thank you.